Hello everybody, it's Julia Laird with Senior Susie Stamps, and today is Sunday, so it's Sunday with Susie, and I am working on some Whimsy cards today. Let me show you an example. This is a bird that I cut from my scan and cut, but you could have used a cutting die, or you could have cut it by hand for that matter. And I used a little stencil to do the pattern, and then just blended some ink. I used a little eyelashed googly eye, and it makes it just a fun little card. But the thing that makes this really fun is this little gift that goes with it. And so today what we're going to do, I've already got the birthday card that made that's going to go with the little stand that we're going to make today. But I wanted to show you how to do these out of these wooden blocks that you have left. Now, a lot of folks who have watched this channel for a while know that most all of the stamps that I have in this studio I buy used. And if at all possible, I get them unmounted if they're older stamps. And then I save the wooden blocks from those. I don't know, for fire starter. I don't have a clue, but I think these little things here are just adorable. And on this side, it says, "You're amazing." And on this side, it says, "Stay positive." And I just think a little card like this, maybe to send to a college girl that was in the dorm that needed just a little pick-me-up, or someone in a nursing home that needed just a little something small for their room. Wouldn't that be nice to receive something like that in the mail? Now let me show you the card that we're going to work on today. These are the things that we'll need. I have a wooden block, and I've already gone ahead and measured it and drilled into the center of it. And then I have an embossing folder that's a wooden. I also have a pipe cleaner, and these are tapered pipe cleaners, and that is helpful when you're pushing this down into the hole there. You don't have a very big hole, because you want to be able to take this apart if you're going to mail it to someone. I have some stamps that I've used. Let's go through and look at those. This one is a 1991 Dots stamp. Take time to enjoy life's simple joys. And then I have some ladybug stamps. This one is a Judith H72, and this one is Demani Design 1998. I got all these used. And then this is a happy birthday. It's just a nice little print for my card. I used a hole punch. I used a little flower punch. I used some acetate. Now, I purchased some acetate while I was on my shoulder stuff, and because I thought maybe I would start cutting some stencils. I have a little concept that I'm working on. I haven't gotten to there yet, but I have some acetate in the studio. However, you don't need to purchase acetate, and you don't ever have to even use it in this project. Obviously, I didn't use it on that bird, but for the one that we're doing today, I thought it would be kind of nice to have a piece that we're going to use. I just have a little flower punch and then some pins. Let me show you how I came up with the center on this hole right quick, and because it's easy to do. I use this Tim Holtz Ideology ruler because it has a 0 line, and so this is 0, these two are 1, these two are 2, and so forth on down the line. And so if you put your corners, like this one is 4 inches across, well, that gives you then your little spot to mark. Excuse me, I get a pencil. So I put a little X right here. I put the first part of the X right there. And then I turned it, and I did exactly the same thing. I put my 2 and 2, and then I marked my little X right there. And then John was sweet enough to go out and drill some holes for me. And then when he brought them back, I used my handy dandy little eraser and just erased my little pencil marks, and we are good to go. So there you go, that's how that's done. And then this just slips right down in there. And you can, if it gets a little unstraight, you can straighten it up by just pulling it back into shape. Now, let me show you the card that I made, because we're going to work on the little stand today and the frame. These are those pipe cleaners. They're BJ Long tapered pipe cleaners in extra long. They're not very long, are they? But let's see how long they actually are. 6.5 inches, just so you know. And I am going to use a little hot glue to glue these in to the focal. I don't glue them into the base. Now, I have cut some frames. Let me show you the card first. I'm sorry. I'm getting discombobulated, as my great aunt Julia would say. This used some red velvet paper, just because it had this nice red and black polka dot to go with the ladybug theme. But today we're going to make this frame, and then we're going to make a little framed element that will go with this card. So you'll recognize the stamps, and you can see I put a piece of acetate down in the side of that frame, so it kind of looks like a picture hanging on the wall. And on the inside I put another ladybug and just a little strip of that paper as well. I don't know if this paper is still available, but it came from Paper Wishes, and the title of it is called Red Velvet. It's really pretty paper, if it is still available. I'm going to use a piece of scratch paper to protect my surface. And these frames I cut off of the Scan and Cut, like I did that bird. And Scan and Cut is loaded with some artwork already, where you can just go in and resize it and cut it. Let me scroll through this right quick and show you. We could have actually done a ladybug, but I thought maybe it would be fun just to do the frame and then use a stamp. Now that frame is this one. It's ARK024, and I just resized it to where it's approximately 3 by 4 1/4, because that was the size that I wanted. But there's all kinds of fun things that are already preloaded on Scan and Cut. However, you would not need a pre-cut frame like this to make a frame. You could just use a rectangular piece of paper and cut your center out of that, or you could use dies to cut it out. There's all manner of ways to do that. And then I just went ahead and put it in my embossing folder and ran it through the machine. So now we're going to make these white frames into weathered wood, and I'm going to use 4 different inks today. And you use just whatever you have. It's really easy to do these. As long as you've got a basic brown and a basic black and something to fill in with, you're good to go. But this is Crumb Cake and Smoky Slate. And then I've got some Rich Cocoa and my Tuxedo Black here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color these frames. And I'll just do one to show you, and then I'll do the other 2 off camera right quick, so that we can proceed on in making this little whimsical thing. All I'm doing is putting some color down. Now, you say, well, Julie, why didn't you start with a piece of craft or something? Well, you could have. Sure, why not? But I kind of like the flexibility of cutting them, because I cut all 4 of these frames at one time out of one piece of paper. And that way I can colorize them the way I want to. And if you get a little smudgies here and there on this kind of thing, it doesn't make a bit of difference, not one, because we're going to put enough color on these frames that you won't ever even notice that. I'm going to switch out to a different little brush here, because I am going to go back in and do the rest of those. And all I'm doing now is toning that Crumb Cake back just a little bit with some slate, Smoky Slate, and giving it more of a weathered wood look. And you don't really notice it too much, but I'll guarantee you, if you just left that Crumb Cake, it would be just plain Crumb Cake. Oh, okay. And you can tell it just doesn't take a whole lot. Now on these other 2 inks, on the black and the Rich Cocoa, I'm going to drag those. And on the black, I'm going to drag lightly because I don't want this to be a big black frame. But I do want to have some black accents. It's looking more and more like wood, isn't it? Okay, now I'm going to drag a little heavier with the brown. And you can see that brown coming on in there now. There we go. I'm going to go back in with just a little more of the smoky slate and tone that brown down just a little bit. There. And so there we are. And see what a nice frame that makes? I'm tickled with them. Now the only other thing that I'm going to do with these is to put just a little bit of a brown edge around the outside so that the white paper doesn't show. And that's all I'm doing. Because there's going to be foam tape between them and all kinds of stuff, but I just don't want the edge of that white paper showing. So I'm just taking a brown pen with a chisel point and easily going around these and trying not to ruin what I'm working on. There we are. Okay, I'm going to do these other two. We'll probably only use one other one, but I'm going to do both of them, and I'll be right back in just a minute. Okay, now, there's all three frames done. They don't look anything like they did originally, do they? Okay, so I've got my artwork ready to go in the frames themselves, and I have taken a little piece of acetate and just put the barest little drop of glue on each four corners. And I wish I had cut this acetate just a tiny bit bigger, but I didn't. And it's going to be all right. So I'm going to glue these into, I'm going to glue one of them into the back frame just to have a starting point. I am using art glitter glue today because I want it to kind of grab pretty quick. And I don't want to have to use a lot of glue. So, and I want this to be the sentiment that goes on the back of this little piece. I want it to be kind of centered a little bit. And now I'm going to turn that over and put something on top of it, like this 10-second bow maker. And let's just let that dry for a second now. And I'm going to put some foam tape on this side over here. I'm going to cut some strips of foam tape and be careful not to get too close to the edge because we just don't want any of it showing. And I've got some strips here, some little leftovers, so I am going to use those. If I had had presence of mind, I might have cut a little piece of cardboard or chipboard or something to firm this frame up, but I think, well, I'm hoping at any rate, that this foam will do that for us. You know, sometimes foam will act as a stiffener in a project. I always need to kind of remember that, because it's a good way to do that. Now I have plugged my hot glue in, and so I'm ready to put my pipe cleaner on. And I want to make sure I get it on the bottom. That would not be fun, would it, to have it sticking upside down? So I want to put it on the bottom here, and I'm going to put it up about like that. And I may need to take one of these little tiny pieces of foam tape out. So I'm just going to run some glue. I thought I was going to need more, but I had plenty. And then I'm just going to try to get this as straight as I can. There we go. And you'll have to get your little glue Harrys out. There. And that'll be fine. And now I'm going to pull the cover off of the foam tape. I'm going to take this little piece out of the middle there. I don't think we're going to need that. And then I'm going to set this frame right down on top of my artwork so that it's in the spot that I want it to be in. And if I get my head in the way, I'm sorry. But you know how it is. Let's see. I'm thinking right about like that. That acetate puts a little bit of a glare on it for you, I'm sure. And for me, it does as well. And there is some foam tape sticking out still. So let's just see if that's going to be enough. Right like that. And I think it will. I'm going to put a little glue on here that'll help pull that in together. Take this in my hand and pick it up so that we get it covered well. And I'm not pressing down until I make sure everything is fine here. And there we go. Now I think everything's going to be fine, right like that. I may need to put just a little squirt of glue in here or there. There we are. Now, I made some little flowers that go kind of with the card. What did I do with that card? Good gracious. Oh, here it is. Here we are. So I thought we would kind of do this like we did on the card, so it kind of mirrors it. I'll get my tweezers. These, I didn't want to pull these stamps so that I could use them on my Misty, because I don't use them that often, and I thought I would just I would take them as they stamped and be happy with that. And this is just an old Stampin' Up! Punch and a circle punch, and I used the same brown ink that I used in the middle of that flower to color the white paper, and then punched it out with the circle punch, primarily because I was too lazy to go look for a piece of brown paper, if the truth is told. And then I'm going to put this on the back. And that kind of finishes the back a little bit. Now the only other thing that we might think about doing is to put just a little bit of color on here. And I'm just going to do that with a blending brush, just to kind of distress it just a little bit. Well, to kind of finish it a little bit maybe, so that it just doesn't look kind of like raw wood anymore. It has just a little bit more character then. Then I'm going to take my ink pad and just kind of give it just a little bit of distressing there on the sides. You see what I'm doing here? There. And so now our little Whimsy character will go right up in here like this. And you may have to kind of adjust the, oh, he's not going to work. He's too heavy. Well, hang on. I was a little concerned about that with that foam tape. Let's just see. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. Did you know that? Or at least that's what I have been told. So I'm going to stick this right up in there a little bit. And we're just going to do a wrap. That's okay. John may have to go back and drill us a bigger hole. That's going to work. Yeah, it's going to work just fine. Now, let me see. I'll be back. He's going to drill a bigger hole for me. Okay, here we are. John went back and put a bigger hole in. I put just a little bit of black ink on that. Maybe I ought not to have done it, but I thought it might need a little bit more color with this being so dark up here. But at any rate, if it's a little wonky for you, you just kind of straighten it up. And there it goes. And so here's the back. And I can see how on a desk, maybe in an office or in a reception area, something like that would be just fun to have on your desk. And you could look at it on one side and then flip it around and have the sentiment. And with the matching birthday card, it makes a great little gift to go with it. And you can take it apart to mail it easily. And so it's a done deal. So here's the ladybug. And here's the little birdie. If you have a favorite, let me know. I'm tickled with the way these two turned out. And I hope you all enjoyed it today. And have a great week. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye, y'all.